Just as a quick update, I have known that my mother had Munchausen syndrome, but I've had problems memorizing the word Munchausen for over 3 years now. I knew what the disease was, I knew my mother had it, but I couldn't remember what to call her disease. I know she's drugging me. That's what I usually call it. Is my mother slipped me pills, drugged me, and I had a reaction that destroyed my body. She did this repeatedly afterwards. That's usually how I say it. And I learned that it's called Munchausen syndrome after I was looking up a lot of my mother's symptoms and what she was doing to me and what do they call it, and looking for names of my disorder. Mine's called a neurological disorder that causes neurological activity that can lead to seizures, what they call lack of movement in the limbs. It's extremities, lack of movement in the extremities, numbness, neurosis, all these different words I had to learn to figure out what do you call it when your legs feel like they're in ice and you can't walk? What do you call it when your arms and legs won't move and they're spasming? They call that neurological activity in your extremities. Stuff like that is some of the words they might use. So I had to learn these. But Munchausen syndrome, the way I learned to memorize that is I thought of another syndrome called Asperger's. And I memorized that by munch ass, munch burger. See how that is? So if you memorize, I already know about Asperger's. And if I want to remember what my mother had, I just have to go through the names of the ones I know. Okay, autism, Asperger's, Munchausen. But the problem I was having is I kept on thinking of autism and I couldn't think of Munchausen because munchtism, it just doesn't make any sense. So I'm like, no, that can't be it. Munchtism. Nope, it must not be Munchausen. But then I did Asperger's. Munch ass, munch. Oh, that's the one. That's the name I always forget. So I have to memorize words, and I'm having to memorize a black law dictionary because I don't understand with a lot of the housing disputes and trying to get things repaired. And of course, landlords manipulate really well. They're very used to the system, so they know how to play it. Me, I just know how to tell the truth. I know how to be honest. That's it. But if somebody's playing a trick or a game, I don't play games. I don't know how to play games. Just like when my father plays a game with my doctors and my insurance, I don't know how to play that. I don't know how to undo it. I just suffer. If my father plays a game with my Department of Health worker who needs information from him, and if that gets to my insurance company and they cut off my epilepsy bracelet that calls an ambulance for me because of my father, I don't know how to get that bracelet back. I don't know how to play games. I just told my insurance company the truth. I really do need that. If I have a seizure on the side of the road, I really need an ambulance. And they said, we have reports and medical history that says otherwise. You don't need it. And then they come up with a story that we just don't give it anymore. They don't. What they mean to say is they don't give it to me anymore. They change the words around. They still give it to people who need it. They just won't give it to me anymore. So they have a lot of this bullshit where they cut stuff off, or the doctors don't even keep me overnight for observation, or it takes them 3 hours to arrive because they're like, oh, Zach again. Zach probably wants to show off his testicles or something. Meanwhile, I'm bleeding internally and my testicles are filled with blood. But remember, my father wants that. He wants me to suffer. Did I ever get medical treatment for my GI or my testicles filled with blood? No, it's extremely hard to get anybody to work with me. And as time goes by, as they malpractice me more and more and more, I get more angry. Especially when they move stuff out that has to be handled right away, a year later. Like if you got blood in your testicles and you need the doctor to take a look so he can record that you're bleeding internally, you don't want to wait 6 months to take a look. That's why I had to take pictures. These games that are played with me are causing me immense harm and suffering, and they're going to be the death of me. And I think I'm going to be dead or starting to die again horribly in about 2 days. Well, whenever they have me living in the woods again like Rambo. You might be wondering, why would you be living in the woods? Why wouldn't you stay in your car or the shelter? I'm not allowed to do either of those until I get medical treatment. And my father and mother don't want me getting medical treatment. They don't want people to know what's really wrong with me. They don't even want to have a discussion with me about the horrible PTSD I have and the horrible things. Even when my father sued New Mexico, they didn't want to talk to me about what happened to me in New Mexico. They just wanted the therapist to do it. They wanted them to write everything down. Black man choking me out, and my own parents don't give a fuck if I get an education or not. They don't give a fuck. Well, why should I give a fuck about them then? Why should I? When I'm living in the woods, why don't I just do whatever the fuck I want and handle this on my own? I mean, I'm tired of suffering. Well, I can be reincarnated if I kill myself, or I'll go to heaven. I've been buying heaven points forever now. I mean, as my father smacks me across the face, did I smack him back? No. Did I deserve a smack for helping him? No. I was down in the basement minding my own business. My father's going nuts upstairs. He's looking for a USB. I tell him, check your front pocket. He says it's not there. So then I go up. It's in the front pocket the whole time. So I give it to him, smiling, going, oh, I'm so glad I was able to help you. I mean, that's the smile. I'm like, oh, I'm so glad I was able to help my father. What does he do? He calls me a thief. He calls me a liar. He calls me a bunch of names. And I'm not having it. So I'm walking out of the house. Get out of my house, he's screaming as I walk out of the house. Get out of my fucking house. Yeah? Well, then give me my Social Security back. If it's not my house, then you don't need my fucking money, do you? You never needed my money, because remember, my Social Security is meant for housing for me, food for me, clothing for me. So if that's not my housing, then I want my money back. But we don't talk about that at all. I don't even mention the fact that he just robbed me blind, that he just stole an inheritance, he just stole Social Security, and he used my clothing funds to better himself and take vacations. And then he'll bring up, well, I got you braces. So you acted like a father, big whoop, while you're draining my money. Great. But anyways, I just walk away as he calls me names. I tell him that this is inappropriate behavior. He doesn't like that. So then he smacks me across the face. So then I turn the other cheek to him. He smacks me again. I turn the other cheek a third time. He's finally had enough smacking. Now, what happens if I went into his house and smacked him? What happens if I took his Social Security and used it on what I wanted to do? What happens if I gave him drugs that caused injuries and I wasn't telling him what those drugs were, or I wasn't allowing him to go to a doctor? What would happen if I hurt his children? What would happen in any of those circumstances? Probably my father, if it was his children, would be like, good, I hope you hurt them. Or, oh, well, it's their own fault. Some shit like that. But this is my father's attitude. See, my father's the type of person that would be drinking and driving, hit somebody, and then blame them. Well, they shouldn't have been crossing the road. My father's the type of person that if he knocked somebody else over, he would say, you shouldn't have been in the way. My father's the type of person where if I tell him that I've been working long hours while injured, while getting hurt, have a disability that isn't being treated, meanwhile I got false disabilities getting in the way, and I really need him to tell the truth and work with me on this so I can live my life. What does my father say? It's your own fault. You're lazy. It's your own fault. It's a fantasy. It's a lie. It's a... Well, we know that one. He does that whenever when he's in trouble, or they ever have any responsibility, or anything like that. It's always somebody else's fault. He can never, ever take responsibility. Now, he might say the same thing about me. No, Zach can never take responsibility. But we know he's full of shit with that one. When I ever did drugs, I was the first person to come and take responsibility. When I drank a beer with my brother, I went up to my father and I took responsibility for me drinking a beer without anybody knowing. Every single time I did anything I wasn't supposed to, I was the first person coming up and snitching myself out. I've never. People say it to me all the time. Zach, you're unlike anybody else I've seen. You got to stop being so honest. You know, you don't always have to take responsibility for those things. You don't always have to say sorry when you make a mistake. You don't always have to apologize. You don't always have to make it up. Stuff like that. And it really is a problem. My parents treated me so shitty like. They called me a liar when I was telling the truth so often that now I get anxiety even when there's a misunderstanding. Yeah, just a simple misunderstanding makes my heart beat out of my chest. Even if there's nothing bad really to it, I still just a basic misunderstanding will make my heart attack me. Now that's the anxiety, and my mother and father did that to me by calling me names and making up stories about me so often. because when I was a child, my mother and father would make stories up about me, and then I would get hurt, drugged, smacked around, something like that. Or my mother would be arguing with my father, and then 3 hours later she would drag me into a room and start smacking me around with a ruler because she wants to send a message to Tim, my nephew's father, her grandson's father, and she's smacking me around in front of her grandson who's crying. Why? Because she's upset at Tim. She wants to send a message up the chain. Now, did I do anything? No. There was nothing that day. She just kept on making up stories to everybody. And she would justify her actions by calling me names. No, he's a bad kid. He's a whatever. He's a whatever. Meanwhile, I'm the only kid in the programs trying to help out the staff. I'm the only kid on the program on Sundays who likes to go to church. I used to like getting a cigarette on the way, but I'm the only kid who has any religious morals in his body. Also, I get very guilty or when I bear false witness or I make a mistake that has to do with the Ten Commandments. So if I say something about somebody that I wasn't there for and I find out later, I ask for forgiveness from that person. But my father, he'll make up stories about me that make me bleed, that make me have scars on my face, that cut off my emergency bracelets, that cut off medications, that cause me to lose my property, and he won't feel sorry at all. He'll be laughing his ass off on a beach about how I'm dead and how it's all my own fault, even though, how is it my fault that the doctors are having false information confusing them? That is the problem here. I have doctors, I have a job, I have an apartment. I'm willing to go to the doctors, I'm willing to go to Social Security, I'm willing to go to work for long hours. So what's the problem? I have a disability that needs to be documented and treated before I can use a shelter, before I can drive, before I can go to work. Well, why is that not being done? Because my father misinformed the doctors. Well, then you just have to clear that out, right? Yeah, well, what's the easiest way to clear that out? Well, you could spend 10 years in the same place waiting for doctors to see enough to clear it out. Okay. You could talk to the federal government and you could get a lawyer. Okay. Or you could go to your father and have them take responsibility for their actions. Okay. Now, what can I do? That's it. There's nothing more I can do. I just have to keep going to the doctor. But if I lose my apartment in 2 days, that's it. Restart again. 6 years of work down the drain because my father told a story to the Department of Health. Yeah, 3 years ago, 2 years ago, I started trying to handle this nicely with him. He started to make up stories to the Department of Health and my doctors to the point where I had to take their list and tell them to call the police if they try to call again. And of course, they did try to call again. And my doctors are still ignoring me, thinking that I'm just some mentally ill kid. Meanwhile, I get hurt and I get hurt and I get bloody. And every time we listen to my father, I lose everything and end up in the woods. Every time we listen to me, I get better. I walk, I talk better. Everything gets better. Why is that? Because I know my disabilities. My father only knows how to avoid responsibility. See, I know my disabilities. My father knows how to avoid disability. Avoid responsibility. Those are two very different things. My father has no intention of trying to make me better. My father has no intention of giving my health or my life back. My father has no intention of clearing up the lies, the slanders, the bearing of false witness against me where he went in the doctor, signed off with my mother. Plus, my father thinks he's not responsible. Well, I didn't do it, my wife did. Well, so what if I paid for it? Well, she's dead now. Oh, Zach's full of shit. Meanwhile, I'm bloodied up on the side of the road, bleeding because of him, waking up going, God damn it, can't I just die and not wake up? Why the fuck do I gotta wake up? Oh yeah, that's right. Oh, now I gotta lay here for an hour. I'm trying to move my legs. Oh, can I dial the phone? Nope, my hand's not working. Oh, fuck, Dad. Can't you just fucking do this shit already? Can't you fucking stop hurting me, you fucking bitch? You fucking small dick little prick. Can't you just handle your own shit? I mean, you know how to fucking yell at me. You know how to fight. You know how to slap me silly. You know how to do all that. But don't you have a big enough dick to fucking work with somebody and fix your mistakes? Or is that all you know how to do is small dick running away stuff? Get mad, yell at people, try to make up stories, call people names, call them liars, call them You don't know how to work with somebody? You don't know how to fix your wife's mistakes and yours by telling the truth. What you do is you work with the person. You call them up. So what are we talking about here? Oh, that sounds horrible. That really happened? Yes, it did. Oh my God. Wow. What are we going to do about it? Well, we got to fix it so I can go back to work. Well, how does that happen? Well, I guess the best thing would be to have my doctor call you and you just tell them it's real, I guess would be the best. And then we work that out with Social Security and the state and my doctors, I guess. He doesn't know how to do that. Instead, it's call my doctors, cut off the help, call me names, call me a liar, call it a fantasy, and hope that I die pretty soon so that nobody finds out. Or hope that it's all some fantasy and really I'm just gonna somehow magically grow wings and be in a car and somehow not be in the woods dying and stuff like that. But if I'm in the woods dying again, like the key word there is again, because they've already had to revive me multiple times from this shit. That's how I got up in New Hampshire. I was living in the woods, rotating from home to home while having seizures. They're scraping me off the ground, but I was helping elderly people. I'm really good with disabled people and elderly people and disabled children. That's my specialty. Why? Because I had a crazy ass mother, I had an elderly father, I had a crazy ass family. I was in programs with crazy ass kids. They were always putting me in some hospital with some type of classes. I also took addiction specialist classes where they gave me a paper degree. I got all different types of shit like that. I got over 15 years of like experience 24/7. That's why. And I also have a high tolerance for people hurting me and making up stories about me and stuff like that. It does give me anxiety when people make up stories about me, but as long as the state and the doctors know that somebody is full of shit, I'm okay with it. Like Raymond Christian the Third has made up stories about his mother, every worker, every doctor he ever had. So I didn't worry about him making up stories about me because they would have to believe the stories about his doctors, the story because he said his doctor hit him, his mother hit him, his father hit him, his other doctor hit him, his first worker hit him, his second worker hit him, his third worker hit him, his fourth worker hit him. So obviously they know Raymond Christian III is full of shit. So I never had to worry about his stories. But my mother and my father's stories get me killed and hurt every time. Well, I shouldn't say killed. That gets me hurt and close to death every time. Where they pronounce me dead on arrival, and then I wake up 2 days later and they tell me I was in a coma and they pronounce me dead on arrival and my body temperature was 72 and they scrape me off the Riverwalk and then they find me frozen someplace else. But that one, there was alcohol in my system. But there's going to be alcohol in my system. Of course, when I'm about to have a seizure, that's the only thing that seems to lessen it. Of course, back then, nobody was treating me then. Nobody's treating me now. The only difference is I'm willing to die for this now. If I have to die and suffer, I'm taking people with me. Before, I just had to figure out what was going on, so I was trying to treat myself instead. Now that I know what's going on and I know what I need to get better, they're either going to give me what I need to get better, fix this goddamn shit, or I'll live in the woods and take motherfuckers out in a way where they get to feel my pain. Let's see how they like random diseases making them sick, but the doctors have no clue what it is because they don't have the information they need. You'll go into the hospital going, I got shot with an arrow in the leg. They'll stitch you up, and then 4 years later, when you're deadly sick, you'll wonder what the fuck it was. And then when I come up to you and tell you, oh, I know what it is, I'm the one who shot you, you'll want to kick my ass, won't you? But then when I never tell you, when you torture me and you hurt me and you never find out what I did, you're gonna be mad, right? I mean, that's what they did to me. And I can't do stuff. I would never do anything like that. My whole entire life, my whole entire life has been about helping people. Even my own mother, I asked my father to please get her help. Please stop her from taking all these pills. Please stop her from drinking. Please stop her. Instead, they want to make up fantasies about me like I'm some bad guy instead of trying to help. Dad, I was trying to keep your wife alive and help you keep her healthy. I was always about that. And if you don't believe me, if you think I'm out to get you guys or something, just remember the Social Security case. You stole from me. You did something fucked up to me. You had charges against you. You lied to a program. You lied to me. You stole money from me. And what did I do about it? What did I do? I bailed you out and gave you love. So obviously, I'm not out to get you if I'm bailing you out all the time. If I'm giving you 100 chances. I've given my family 100 fucking chances to stop hurting me and using me. I've always given them love and support. I've always given them everything I have. I even tucked my father in when he was drunk in Maine. I even let my mother, when she was abusive, when she was tearing my mind apart, I would tell my father, it's okay. I was always just taking the shit and giving love back. If I was out to get my father or mother, if I was somebody who's abusive or somebody who does crazy things, then why the fuck did I bail my father out right then, right there? I find out my father's been stealing from me for years, and I'm getting thrown out of my housing, and I'm going to have a shitload of problems, and my father's facing charges for what he did, and my father has to pay me back through the Social Security and the Department of Health because he stole money. And what do? I bail him out. I help him. I help my father get out of trouble. If I was really out to get him, then why the fuck did I not just take the money and sign? Why? Why wouldn't I just take? Well, because I always supported my father. I always gave love to my family, and my mother was holding my health hostage. So, with all that, I decided the best thing to do is to keep giving them love. Just like 3 years ago, 2 years ago, and now, I've been asking my father to do the right thing. Why would I do that? If I'm hurting so bad and I'm having so much problem at the doctor's, then why would I give my father a chance if I'm this mad? Why wouldn't I just fucking tie him to a tree already, or why wouldn't I do something like that? Because I love my family and I'm trying to give them a chance to do the right thing. I've always done that. I've always been this way where I give love, forgiveness, care. I help the disabled, the elderly, my father, my mother, my brother, my nephew. If it wasn't for me, my nephew and my brother and my father all would have had problems with my mother. My mother would have been going nuts all the time and have no lightning rod or outlet. I was my mother's outlet. If it wasn't for me, there would have been some African American kid, or there would have been fights with my father, or my nephew would have been smacked or drugged in secret, or something would have happened to my family. Instead, I took it all. I took everything she had to dish out plus more. But what after I did all that for them, what did they do? They wiped their ass with me constantly. Just wiped their ass. Slandering my name, just slandering it. I'm going to come and take your tongue out. That's what I need to do. I need to start being the actual people they are. See, my brother talks about being violent. They talk about all this fucking shit. But you know what? Nobody thinks he's mentally ill. They never put him on medication. They never drugged him. Why? Because it's normal. When you're angry and somebody puts your family in danger, it's normal to be mad. It's normal to want them to take responsibility and fix it or else. And that's where I'm at. If I'm living in the woods like Rambo, and I'm not allowed to use a shelter, I'm not allowed to go to work, I'm not allowed to do anything because of my father's words and choices, I'm going to have to. There's no other choice. I don't think I can give these people any more forgiveness and love. How do you give somebody love that is still killing you actively? You can't. That's it. And I'm not going to die in a hole someplace, hang myself, or do something like that without somebody knowing that this is something real and I'm not fucking standing, I'm not going to lay down for it. No, this time around, they're going to get something full. They're going to get it. Or they can finally do the right thing. My family can finally follow Jesus and do the right thing. Then, never again will I be angry. Never again, because my medical records will be fixed. So anything after that that happens would be my fault. But right now, I have had problems for years with the doctors, all the way back in Lowell, and I always wondered why the fuck I get treated differently than every other patient who's found unconscious on the side of the road sober. Why am I treated so much differently? Because I have a different medical record. I have a different mother and father. Most mother and fathers want their son to succeed. They want their son healthy. My mother wanted to get away with her shit. She had Munchausen syndrome. She was drugging me. And she even tried to put me on meds the doctor said would hurt me. Yes, my mother still tried to put me on meds for a made up disability that the doctors told her I did not have, and she kept on pushing it. The doctors all told her, the doctors in Texas, the doctors in Westford, the doctors in Chelmsford, all told my mother to stop trying to get Zyprexa or those type of meds, that those would hurt me. But my mother still tried. Now, why? Why did my mother try so hard for schizophrenic medication, even though that would be the worst medication in the world to give me? I would get hurt. Because she wanted me hurt. She wanted me to have side effects. She wanted fake diagnoses for the Social Security case, and so nobody would ever listen to me about my real disabilities and what she was really doing to me. So now it's time to give the curse back or fix the curse. We either can fix the curse as a family or I can give the curse to my family.